do some community service work. If you received a salary or bonus, salary increase or a bonus, they should know about that. Any material change that has happened to your candidacy on a positive front, that you should let admissions know about. I mean, so it really, if you want to break it down, if you've taken a class and you've gotten the grades, let them know about that. Those are just, I mean, anything that's positive. If something small happens, if you receive like a $2,000 raise and you're making $120,000, that doesn't necessarily look very good. But if you received a bonus that's equal to 50% of your salary, that may be very impressive. And so they would want to know about things like that, because obviously somebody validates you at work, and they obviously validate you to the point where they give you a very large bonus, and they obviously like the work that you've done. And there's really no better validation than things like that.
Yeah, would we want to trickle those down to them, or would we want to kind of wrap them up in groups and send them?
Well, obviously, people, as I said before, people have very little time and they have very little tolerance. I believe one strategically worded essay or one strategically worded email is always the best way to go
Mhm.
about it.
Gotcha. And how would we structure that email? Can you give us an example?
Um, it depends. Once again, it really depends on the person,
Okay.
and it really depends. It really depends on how you wrote your essays. And there's really one thing you don't want to do is disconnect really from your how you really approach and the style that when you wrote your essays from the style in which you're going to write your emails or your correspondence with these people. So, I think it really all is on a personal front, and you really want to make sure that it really reflects who you are, and it really, once again, is make sure that it's giving the content that they want to see and really the results they want to see and in the format they want to see. If you're big on bullet points, also don't write long posts. Okay? It just make sure it really is very consistent with writing style and writing directive of what you've already presented to the school.
Gotcha. So how does being placed on a wait list at say a school that's maybe higher up our list really affect our decision to select a school maybe a couple slots lower? It seems like there's a little bit of a game there. How do you manage that?
It's definitely a game, and it's definitely a very tense and very stressful period of a person's life, if you will, because if you want to think about it, business school is a very expensive process. You're taking yourself out of the workforce for at least a year, maybe in most cases for American business schools, 2 years. The second factor is that, I mean, you are spending a lot of money for tuition and living expenses. But I think the most important factor is that you're spending 2 years of your life. You can always recoup money, but you can never recoup time. So you want to make sure that the school is absolutely the best school for you. And so we think it's really critical that you really set your priorities. If you are on a wait list and you're fine with with the opportunity that's presented to you, being on a wait list oftentimes requires that you wait until the last minute. So you might hear the day before school starts that you got a spot.
Wow.
Some people don't like that on type of uncertainty. They need to know exactly where they're going, and the wait list for them really isn't for. It could be a very stressful time period. It could be really a 6 month or 9 month period, very very stressful and very very miserable. So you have to be open-minded and flexible if you really want to go to a particular school. It also costs money. For instance, if you get accepted to school A and it's ranked number 8, and you really want to go to school B that's ranked number 4, you can't tell one school that you're waiting for another school to give you an acceptance. So what you do is you have to send in a deposit, and oftentimes this deposit is upwards to $5,000. And when you actually tell them you're not going to the school, they're going to be mad, and they're going to keep the money. So it's an additional sort of maybe $5,000 you have to add to the process. So it is a very expensive process. You have to keep that in mind too. For most people, it's worth that small amount of money and the investment to make sure they get in the school that they feel is best for them and they'll feel most comfortable at, and they feel is the greatest value added for their short and long-term career and academic potential.
Gotcha. So you said again that you could get in to the lower school and then put the $5,000 deposit like you're going there and then withdraw that if you get into the school higher on your list?
Yeah, but you don't with the. I mean, you withdraw your acceptance. I mean, you
Right.
basically, if you don't, you generally don't get the money back.
You generally don't do what?
You generally don't get the funds returned to you.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. What else should we
yeah, and
know? Go ahead.
well, I think people should know that business schools tend to be the most money making. They tend to be money making machines. They have